Hey, how's it going out there today, everybody? Hope everybody's having a great day. It's weekly recap time. If you're new to the channel, thank you. And we try to do one of these every week, and by we, I mean me. I try to do a little rundown of my week every week. I talk about the money. I talk about why I took the loads. A few things. I pull a reefer trailer. I'm leased to an 80-20 split carrier. I don't talk about the carrier. Just really does no good to me. I don't need people calling and complaining about me or whatever. So I don't talk about the carrier. It is a good carrier, but there's good carriers out there. So, if you want to try to, get these numbers, lease onto a good carrier, do your research. And, I run a pretty fuel efficient operation. I got me a 2016 Cascadia. We are on winter fuel, so fuel mileage has went down. I have been testing running a little bit faster to see if I can get, more miles in and, in my hours. So I'm running, 68, 70 here lately. Normally I run like 65-ish, somewhere in that ballpark, but I bumped it up 68, 70, see if it makes a difference. I figure if I can get more miles in, then, maybe it'll make up for the fuel costs being a little higher. Testing that right now. But, so this week we're doing right now, this is the week of Thanksgiving. Most holidays I truck. I do take off Christmas, that's when I'll take off, but most holidays I'll just truck on through the holiday and then take off time either before or after the holiday. Now, my truck had been in the shop for 3 weeks leading up to this, so, I went ahead and trucked the holiday. Now, I was in a loaner truck for this week, so, the fuel's a little, not much different. It was a Cascadia, a year older than mine, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But I'll explain a little bit more about the loads and, put it all in context. But the first load was out of Minnesota. I do run out of Minnesota. Typically, I've got my operation set up. I go Minnesota, out, and back. Typically, 1,000 to 1,500 miles out, and then back. I got like 5 lanes that I run mostly. But this load, this week was an exception to almost every rule because I was in a loaner truck. A fellow driver let me borrow his truck. I paid him some money, basically rented his truck. And what that did was I had to get back. So this is like leaving out on a Wednesday and returning back on Monday morning. So this was like a 4 or 5 day week, basically. I left out on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, we'll say 5 days. And then Monday, I had to deliver on the Monday, but I was done by like 8 o'clock. Had the truck back there for him ready to go. So, I may have put in a little bit more fuel on this week because I did bring his truck back with probably about 40 or 50 gallons more than I left with. Just as a thank you for letting me make some money while my truck continued to be in the shop, because go back and watch previous videos. I explained more about what was going on with the truck, but basically, I had a front seal and a front cover put on, and it leaked, so I had to take my truck back to the shop. So I ran one load out with my truck and then back, and then, for the end of the month, I was trying to get my revenue up, so I tried to borrow this truck, and the guy was going out of town, let me borrow his truck. Thank you again for that. So the first load, Minnesota out to, it was a 1-pick, 2-stop. It was picked up in Minnesota, went down to Shelbyville, Indiana was the first stop, and then it finaled in Louisville. Great load. It weighed 8,000 pounds. It was 26 degrees, and that load paid $4,200 on like 863 loaded miles. So good paying load. It was running through Thanksgiving, so it was like I picked it up on Wednesday, delivered it on Friday night, so it worked out well. Then, normally I would have ran whatever, out of there. I wouldn't have been as picky about getting back because I'd only been gone a couple of days, but I had to get this guy's truck back to him. So the next load had a ton of deadhead, but it was coming right back to Minnesota, right near where I needed to be to get his truck back to him. So it was a dry load, and that was from Missouri. So I deadheaded from Louisville over to Missouri. 308 deadhead miles on that. 308 on the deadhead. On a 673 loaded miles on that. So almost probably like 45% deadhead on that. You know, a big chunk of deadhead, but you do what you got to do when you got to be there. Still a good paying load, all in $2,500 on a 16,000 pound dry load, and that was 981 total miles on that one. And I need to call about the detention pay on that. I had like a 12-hour wait at that facility to get loaded, so I got to call and double check on that. Always got to follow up on your detention pay, or I do. Seems like these brokers, unless you email them a couple times, then they don't care. So those were my 2 loads for the week. $6,700 total revenue. 80-20 split carrier. My 80% is $5,360 of that. 1867 all miles. That's $359 a mile all miles, which is great considering 18% deadhead. And like I said, this load was the weekend after Thanksgiving. I think that's why dry loads were paying as good, you know, out of that area. And I guess a lot of people just don't want to get loaded there because according to the reviews, it's a 10-hour wait. It's pretty common there. Pretty common. So that was 331 empty miles. Like I said, 18% deadhead. That is $359 a mile, all miles. That is $287 a mile. My 80% was $287 a mile. I'm still very profitable at that rate. If you take just the loaded miles, $436 a loaded mile. So even having to, you know, like make concessions to get back to Minnesota, I still did very good on this week because it was the week of Thanksgiving. I like to make a lot of money on a holiday weekend. You know, this is kind of average numbers if you think about it because of the massive amount of deadhead, but the loaded miles was still really good. I didn't use. Now, when I talk about my variable expenses, I don't go over fixed costs because, you know, you got to factor in truck payments, you got to factor in, you know, insurance, all that stuff, maintenance cost, all that. At the end, but I don't factor that in because everybody's is so different. I just try to give you the numbers of the variable cost. So this is what I bought. It's not always what I use. Sometimes, you know, if I start the week out on you know, a quarter of a tank and I finish the week on a full, you know, it's going to look like I bought more fuel because I did, but I necessarily didn't use more fuel. You know what I mean? So keep that in mind because I've had a lot of people say, well, you know, how can you, you know, claim you're getting, you know, 7.5, 8 miles a gallon, and, you know, they'll break down, oh, well, you spent, you know, $1,500 on fuel, and you ran X amount of miles, and fuel's this much, and that, you know, and I'm like, it's because sometimes you start the week on empty, and sometimes you finish it on full, or vice versa. You know, there's always people, you know, trying to, you know, on the internet, always trying to make you like a liar. There's always that one guy. But I'm telling you, I got no reason to lie about these numbers. I've said it before. These numbers are not to impress anybody. If you make more money than me, thank God. I'm happy for you. You know, I want everybody to be successful out here. Being an owner-operator is not an easy gig. It's long hours. It's a lot of paperwork. And if you manage to make a good profit at it, you've earned it. You have earned it. So, like I said, these numbers are just for educational purposes. They're factual to my, you know, the best of my ability to keep up with things. And, you know, I got no reason to lie to you. You know, when I got good numbers, the thumbnail is, you know, I put the numbers in the thumbnail no matter what. If they're good, bad, you know, it's always in there. So, variable cost, $800 on diesel, $38 on reefer fuel. So, the one load going out was the, you know, where I bought the reefer fuel because the other load coming back was dry. And not to mention that was 26 degrees and running Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana. Or I don't think I went through Wisconsin on that. I dropped down, went through Iowa over down 74. So, or maybe I did. Yeah, 74 goes through Illinois. Never mind. Didn't go to Wisconsin, went to Iowa. But anyway, it was like 26 degrees outside, and that was a grocery load. I put it on start and stop, so I used hardly any reefer fuel on that run. $30 on DEF, and that makes my variable expenses. No tolls for the week. No, I didn't scale either one of those loads, 8,000 pounds and 16,000 pounds. I'm not going to scale those. No parking. So total variable cost, $868. Love that. Love that. That's a low cost week. So we bring over the $5,360, my 80%. You subtract the $868 that I had in variable cost. Leaves me $4,492 to do what I have to do with. 4,492 left to do what I have to do with. This is the point where you would subtract your, if you're doing this for research to try to think about being an owner operator, you'd want to plug in a decent, truck payment, insurance, and whatnot. But overall, I'm really happy with that number because, basically it was 4 days of running. And, the one day I just did the deadhead, so I'd only had like 300 miles one day. So it was a pretty good, it was pretty good money for the effort I put in. And things worked out really good about getting back to get a guy's truck back. Really happy with that number. Of course, that's Thanksgiving week, so maybe wouldn't have done as good, who knows, on a regular week. But when I got back that Monday, they didn't have my truck done until Tuesday. So we'll talk about that a little bit on next week's weekly recap. I try to give you what happened for 7 days because, even if like I got a really good load after that and it ran it over to 8 days, I'd put that on next week. I'm not a fan of 8-day, 9-day, 10-day weeks just to make my thumbnail look better. I mean, honestly, when I make over $10,000 in a week, that video will get twice as many views as a $5,000 week. People want to see how you make the big money. To me, I like a $10,000, $12,000 week, but I'll be honest with you, I'll take consistent weeks over big weeks, then fall off, big weeks, fall off. It's just how I like to do business. I like it a little bit more consistent. So I'll take that $4,492 because I can pay my bills out of that, and still, like I said, for the amount of effort I put in, it's a really good week. Really good week. But that's it, guys. That's weekly recap. Thanks, everybody, for watching. If you made it this far, hit that thumbs up button for me. If you're not a subscriber, think about subscribing to the channel. We do lots of trucking here. It's all about the business of trucking. Check out the live shows. I enjoy doing those. I like it when more people are there because, it's more chat. It's more things to talk about, more insight. Check out that description down below for the link to Mudflap. If you're an owner-operator, be sure to use Mudflap. Use my promo code. Get yourself $10 in free fuel. Gets me $10 in free fuel. More importantly, it keeps Mudflap here because I like Mudflap. I don't want it going away. Check out the merch tent. Got all kind of merch I'm selling down there. Shirts, hats, whatever. I'll sell you anything. I'm like the Rush Limbaugh trucking over here as far as selling you stuff. But that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care of each other out there. Later. Bye.